And right now you're listening to BBC Radio Kent's Arts programme, Seen and Heard with Michael Bath. Now in this programme we're going to be taking a look at two of the county's small presses and their output. First of all, Heartland Publishing is based in Sittingbourne, and it's just brought out a book of poems and pictures about Tunbridge Wells called Wellspring. Colin Aston, the author, is here, along with his publisher, Nick Evans. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
What made you decide? Are you actually a Tunbridge Wells resident?
Well, yes, I was born in Pembury and have known Tunbridge Wells all my life. My father, in fact, came to school in Tunbridge Wells, and I've recently returned to Tunbridge Wells and have been living there for the last 3 years. It's a place that I feel I know quite well through having visited it over a number of years, and I feel that I'd like more people to know about the attractions of Tunbridge Wells.
You mean it was still with you when you were travelling around the world?
Very much so, yes.
Well, what's so interesting about it? What makes it special, apart from the fact that you obviously lived there? I mean, why should anyone who didn't live there think it's special?
Well, I think it's got a very, very attractive location. The buildings there and the ambience of the town is so attractive that it's the kind of place where people would come to visit and go away with happy memories. Those of us who live there are fortunate enough that we can be there all the time and see it through the changing seasons.
Did these poems, were they written all at once, or are they written over a long period of time, or what?
Well, these poems in particular have been written over the last 3 years, although obviously I've been writing poetry somewhat longer. Again, picking up the kind of pride in a sort of hometown.
Did you think, did you start off writing one poem, then another, and then another, and then another, and think, oh, I don't know, I think I've got a theme here, or what?
Yes, I think that's right. Obviously, one starts writing poems because the poems are there to be written, and then gradually a body of work emerges. I think there must have been altogether about 60 poems, which have come about over the last 3 years. When I showed them to Jeff Horne of Heartland Publishing, he was very interested in putting them together. And in fact, he suggested that the title Wellspring, I'd been looking for a title, and of course it's axiomatic that any title that anyone else suggests is better than the title you first thought of. So I wrote the poem to...
I must ask you then what the title you first thought of was.
There were a number of titles, but not quite He Do the Police in different voices.
Your publishing company, Heartland Publishing, when did you set it up?
Well, we're a reasonably new company, and I think we're kind of born out of the position of knowing people like Colin over the years, and some other authors that we're associated with, and the realisation that the publishing, mainstream publishing, seems to be shrinking. I mean, looking in the bookshops, there seems to be the same kind of titles coming in, year out, and it seems that, to us anyway, that, I mean, if you're not a politician, or you're not a big name, or have contacts in the publishing field, or have slept with a politician, or you're going to have difficulty getting work published. And there's a lot of good writing going on.
Now, how do you find this good writing? Is it all through friends, or do you advertise, or what?
Well, yes, I mean, a bit of both. I mean, Jeff, the proprietor of Heartland, has been involved in the art scene in Kent for a number of years through music business and various other allied businesses. So it's the two things really, meeting the authors and really the frustration, like, over the years that has built up in not seeing the good work being published, and frankly seeing some rubbish published, and you know, being motivated enough to say, well, okay, well, look, let's stop talking about it and getting frustrated about it. Let's try and actually get it out and market it.
What about the money? Don't you need a lot of money to publish this kind of thing?
Well, I mean, we sort of started off. We read all the books on publishing at the outset, and you know, threw them all away. You know, needing $5 million and 50 titles to start a publishing company. I mean, we're starting in a very small way. I mean, we have a couple of projects going on at the moment. Wellspring is one. We have another project, a book called Lying About America, which is this kind of travel novel. So we're starting in a small way and finding our feet, really.
Let's go back to Tunbridge Wells then. Would you like to pick out one of your favourite parts of Tunbridge Wells and talk about it, and tell me about the poem that you wrote on it?
Well, let's go for the poem called Tunbridge Ware, which is a kind of amalgamation of the things that go to make up Tunbridge Wells. As you probably know, Tunbridge Ware has always been a souvenir of Tunbridge Wells. It's boxes made of a mosaic made of the end grain of wood. And the poem is kind of like that. It says that Tunbridge Wells can only be seen when you step back and you see all the component parts all put together, and that's how the whole place works.
Okay, let's hear it then. Tunbridge Ware.
Tunbridge Ware. You'll remember Tunbridge Wells, leafy highness of the Weald, stained glass windows, cricket, choirs, elegant avenues appeal, the mastery of airy spires, your souvenirs of Tunbridge Wells. We've the time in Tunbridge Wells, where grace consorts on balconies, parades of bayed Edwardians keep bright the blades of artisans, propriety, old euphony, the long cord held in Tunbridge Wells. A fresh heart's beating, Tunbridge Wells, a place for buyers passing through, the Pantiles less the daring do, near gentle groves, cool retinue, King Charles the Martyr claims the true, royal, loyal Tunbridge Wells. It's in the grain of Tunbridge Wells, this shimmering, this bagatelle, of tourers, rakes and mademoiselles, of journeys, meetings and farewells. The fuchsia shakes its soundless bell. We'll meet again in Tunbridge Wells.
Can I ask you, I noticed there's nothing in this book, or at least I don't think there's anything in this book, about the Victoria Centre. What do you think of that?
Well, it comes in, there's a poem called The Way Around, and that's a collection of snapshots in verse, if you like, a reel of film. But the Victoria Centre is only part of Tunbridge Wells. It's as people will know, it's the very new part, the shopping centre area.
A very large shopping centre.
Exactly, yes. A kind of magnet for the town.
Do you think it fits into the town?
Well, it's part of the town. The town itself has always been a place where people popped in, did their shopping, and obviously it's something that keeps the town alive, so it was important to include it, yes.
Right. And one final word about the pictures. Who did these? And were they done after the poems, or what?
Well, I was fortunate to make the acquaintance of Angela Barnes, who is a Canterbury artist, and I knew that Angela had a particularly deft touch with drawing. In particular, she has the knack of seeing something, making an illustration of it that has turned the perspectives around and made it a little bit different. And she came over to Tunbridge Wells and went out with a sketch pad and a set of the poems, and the drawings in the book are the result. Right. But in a way, that's kind of what we were trying to do with the poems. We were trying to look at something recognisable and then make it memorable.
Well, thank you very much indeed for coming in today. And Wellspring, then, is published by Heartland Publishing, which presumably it's available in all the shops in Tunbridge Wells.
Yes, it is.
And elsewhere in Kent?
Yes, I mean all the bookshops, Smith's, Waterstones, Dillon's, and I mean just go into your local one, and of course it can be ordered if it's not actually on the shelves. But it's in certainly all the major bookshops throughout the county.
Okay, well, Colin Aston, Nick Evans, thank you very much indeed.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.